The moment Mia saw the empty corner of her bedroom, her heart stopped. The vintage leather suitcase, the one that had sat there untouched for 3 years, was gone. "Vanessa," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Where's the suitcase?" Her sister looked up from organizing the kitchen, proud of her work, completely oblivious. "That old ratty thing? I threw it out. It was taking up space and looked like it belonged in a dumpster." Mia's legs nearly gave out, because inside that ratty thing were stock certificates her grandfather had given her before he died. Original paper certificates from 1985, now worth $401. And according to Vanessa's cheerful explanation, they'd been in a landfill for 3 days. Mia Torres had always been careful with her grandfather's legacy. Eduardo Torres had been an immigrant who built an empire from nothing, and he'd trusted Mia with something precious. But careful planning means nothing when someone with a key to your apartment decides your treasures look like trash. And sometimes, the most devastating losses aren't from strangers or accidents. They're from family members who convince themselves they're helping while destroying everything you love. If you've ever had someone throw away something irreplaceable, this story is going to hit different. And listen, before we dive deeper into this nightmare, hit that subscribe button. Because this channel tells real stories about real people dealing with family betrayal. And trust me, you'll want to be here for every single one. Now let's talk about how one sister's jealousy disguised as kindness cost another sister nearly $500,000. Mia had been in Seattle for 5 days, consulting for a tech startup that needed her expertise in data security. The trip had been intense but successful, and she'd been looking forward to coming home to her small but cozy apartment in Brooklyn. She'd texted Vanessa from the airport. "Landing at JFK in 20, can't wait to sleep in my own bed." Vanessa had responded immediately. "Actually, I have a surprise for you. You're going to love it." Mia should have known something was wrong right then. Vanessa's surprises were never good. But she was exhausted from the red-eye flight, dragging her carry-on through her apartment building's narrow hallway, thinking only about a hot shower and her comfortable bed. She unlocked her door and immediately knew something was different. The apartment smelled like cleaning products. Strong, chemical cleaning products. Not the gentle, eco-friendly ones Mia used. Surprise! Vanessa emerged from the kitchen, arms spread wide, a huge smile on her face. "I organized your entire apartment. I know you've been so busy with work, and this place was getting cluttered, so I took care of it for you." Mia stood frozen in the doorway, her stomach sinking. "You what?" "I cleaned. Like really cleaned. Got rid of all the junk, reorganized your closets, threw out things you never use. Don't you love it?" Mia slowly walked through her apartment, her heart rate increasing with each step. Her bookshelves had been rearranged by size rather than the careful organization she'd maintained. Her kitchen cabinets were completely different. But the real panic hit when she walked into her bedroom, the corner where her grandfather's suitcase had always sat. A battered brown leather case from 1955 was empty. Just empty space and clean floor. "Vanessa." Mia's voice came out strangled. "Where's the suitcase?" "What suitcase?" Vanessa followed her into the bedroom, still obliviously proud. "Oh, that old brown thing that was falling apart?" "Mia, seriously, it was literally disintegrating. The leather was cracked, it smelled musty, and it was just sitting there collecting dust. I threw it out." Time seemed to slow down. Mia felt the blood drain from her face, felt her hands start to shake. "You threw it out?" "Yeah, 3 days ago. Wednesday. The trash pickup was that afternoon, so it's long gone. But don't worry, I can help you find a nice new suitcase if you need one. There's a great sale at—" "Stop talking." Mia's voice was so cold that Vanessa actually took a step back. "Where did you throw it out? Which trash?" "The dumpster behind the building. But like I said, that was Wednesday. Today's Saturday. It's definitely gone by now." Vanessa's smile was fading, replaced by confusion. Why are you freaking out? It was just an old suitcase. Mia walked to her closet, pushed aside her winter coats, and pulled out a small fireproof safe. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely work the combination. Inside were documents, her passport, her birth certificate, her lease, and a letter. She pulled out the letter, dated 3 years ago, written in her grandfather's shaky handwriting. Mia, mi nieta querida, it began. In the suitcase I brought from Mexico in 1955, I have placed something for you. Stock certificates from Torres Industries, the company I built with my hands and my heart. 10 0.07 shares, purchased for pennies, now worth a fortune. I give them to you because you are the one who understood what I built. Keep them safe. Keep them hidden. And when the time is right, they will give you the freedom I always wanted for you. With all my love, Abuelo Eduardo. Mia looked up at Vanessa, who had gone pale. What was in the suitcase, Vanessa? Were original stock certificates that my grandfather gave me before he died. Physical paper certificates from 1985, when his company went public. Each certificate is unique, serialized, irreplaceable. Her voice was eerily calm. And they're worth $400. Vanessa's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe for support. That's not possible. You're lying. Why would you keep something worth that much in an old suitcase? Because Abuelo told me to. Because that suitcase represented his journey, his sacrifice. He came to this country with nothing but that suitcase and a dream. He wanted me to have both the money and the reminder of where it came from. Oh my God. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. Oh my God, Mia, I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? You weren't supposed to be in my apartment at all. Mia's calm shattered. You had a key for emergencies, for if my apartment flooded or caught fire, not to break in while I'm away and throw out my things. Vanessa was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I was trying to help. Your place was so messy and I thought, you didn't think. You never think. You just do whatever you want and expect everyone to be grateful. Mia grabbed her phone, her hands still shaking. I'm calling the building super. Maybe the trash hasn't been compacted yet. Maybe there's a chance, she called. The superintendent, Mr. Chen, answered on the third ring. Mia, you're back. How was Seattle? Mr. Chen, the trash from Wednesday, the dumpster pickup. Is there any way to track where it went? A long pause. Wednesday? That's been 3 days, Mia. That load went to the Staten Island transfer station, got compacted, and shipped to the landfill. Why? Did you lose something? Yes. Mia's voice cracked. Something irreplaceable. I'm sorry, but there's no way to recover it. Once it hits the compactor, I'm really sorry. Mia hung up, looked at Vanessa, who was now sobbing into her hands, and felt something inside her go absolutely cold. If you've ever lost something irreplaceable because someone didn't respect your space, drop the word boundaries in the comments. And if this story is making your blood boil, imagine how Mia feels. Don't go anywhere, because what happens next is going to show you exactly why you should never, ever mess with someone else's belongings. Hit that like button if you're Team Mia. For a long moment, Mia just stood there, the letter from her grandfather clutched in her hand, staring at the empty corner where the suitcase had been for 3 years. 3 years of keeping it safe. 3 years of honoring her grandfather's trust. Gone in one afternoon because her sister decided to play organizer. Vanessa was still crying, but Mia felt nothing. No sympathy, no forgiveness, just cold, calculated rage. I need you to leave, Mia said quietly. What? No, we need to figure this out. There has to be a way to leave, now, before I say something I can't take back. Vanessa grabbed her purse, still sobbing. Mia, please. I'm your sister. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake, but I didn't mean to. Get out! The shout was so loud, so raw, that Vanessa flinched and practically ran for the door. It slammed behind her, leaving Mia alone in her too-clean apartment with the ghost of her grandfather's legacy. She sank to the floor, right there in the empty corner, and for the first time since her grandfather died 3 years ago, she let herself cry. Not gentle tears. Devastating, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and broken. Eduardo Torres had been more than her grandfather. He'd been her hero, her mentor, her best friend. While Vanessa had been the popular one, the pretty one, the one their parents fawned over, Mia had spent her weekends with Abuelo, learning about his business, hearing his stories, understanding his journey from a scared 19-year-old crossing the border with nothing to a self-made millionaire who employed hundreds. When he got sick, it was Mia who sat with him in the hospital. Mia who held his hand during the bad nights. Mia who listened to his final wishes. And Vanessa? Vanessa had been too busy with her social life, her boyfriend, her Instagram feed. She'd shown up to the funeral in designer sunglasses and left early because she had plans. Why her? Vanessa had asked their mother after the will reading, when it became clear Eduardo had left Mia something significant, and Vanessa almost nothing. Why does she get everything? I'm family too. Their mother had tried to smooth it over, but the damage was done. Vanessa's jealousy had been simmering for 3 years, and now, disguised as helpfulness, it had destroyed the most precious thing Eduardo had given Mia. Mia's phone rang. Her mother. She didn't answer. It rang again, and again. Finally, a text. Vanessa called me crying. She says you're overreacting. It was an accident. You need to forgive her. Overreacting. The word made Mia's vision blur with fury. She typed back with shaking fingers. She threw away $400, $1,000 worth of irreplaceable stock certificates that Abuelo gave me. The only thing I had left of him besides memories. And you think I'm overreacting? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, call me. We need to talk about this calmly. But Mia didn't want to be calm. Didn't want to smooth things over, to be the bigger person, to forgive and forget. Not this time. She called someone else instead. Her lawyer, James Rothstein, a corporate attorney she'd worked with on several consulting contracts. Mia, it's Saturday. This better be good. James, I need to sue my sister for $400. 00. A pause. Then, I'm going to need you to start from the beginning. Mia told him everything. The suitcase, the certificates, the trash, the impossibility of recovery. James listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Mia, I'm going to be honest with you. This is complicated. Original stock certificates can be replaced, but it's a lengthy process. You'll need to prove ownership, get affidavits, go through the company's transfer agent. It could take months, maybe years, and it's expensive. I know. That's why I want to sue her for the full amount plus legal fees, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Another pause. Are you sure you want to do this? She's your sister. She's the person who destroyed my grandfather's legacy because she was jealous and careless. Yes, I'm sure. Okay. Come to my office Monday morning. Bring everything you have. The letter from your grandfather, any documentation about the stocks, proof that she had access to your apartment, everything. We'll start the paperwork. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, playing the conversation with Vanessa over and over. The casual way she'd said, I threw it out. The pride in her voice when she'd said she was helping. The complete lack of respect for Mia's belongings, Mia's space, Mia's privacy. And underneath it all, Mia knew the truth. This wasn't an accident. Not really. Vanessa had always been jealous of Mia's relationship with their grandfather. Had always resented that Eduardo preferred Mia's company. And when Eduardo died and left Mia something valuable, that resentment had festered. Vanessa must have known the suitcase was important. Mia never moved it, never touched it, kept it in the same corner like a shrine. You don't throw away something that's clearly treasured unless part of you wants to hurt the person who treasures it. Sunday morning, Mia's mother showed up at her door. "Let me in, Mia. We're going to sort this out." Reluctantly, Mia opened the door. Her mother, Carmela, swept in looking exactly like Vanessa would in 20 years, perfectly styled, expensively dressed, more concerned with appearances than substance. "Your sister is devastated. She hasn't stopped crying since yesterday." "Good," Mia said flatly. Carmela's eyes widened. "Mia, that's your sister. She made a mistake. She destroyed $400 Zunoy worth of irreplaceable property that Abuelo specifically entrusted to me. That's not a mistake, Mom. That's negligence at best and malicious destruction at worst." "Malicious? Mia, you can't possibly think she did this on purpose. Then why did she come into my apartment without permission? Why did she throw away something that was clearly important to me? Why didn't she call and ask before she touched anything?" Carmela waved her hand dismissively. She was trying to do something nice. You know how Vanessa is. She acts without thinking sometimes. And now she's going to pay for it. Literally. What does that mean? Mia met her mother's eyes. "It means I'm suing her for the full value of what she destroyed, plus legal fees and damages. If she can't pay, they'll garnish her wages, put a lien on her house, whatever it takes." Carmela's face went pale. "You wouldn't. That would bankrupt her. She and Marcus just bought that house. They have a mortgage, car payments, credit card debt. You'd ruin her life over a mistake." "She ruined mine over jealousy." The words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Carmela tried a different approach, her voice softening. "Mia, honey, I know you're hurt, but this is family. We don't sue family. We work things out. The way you worked things out when Vanessa got the bigger room growing up. The way you worked things out when she got a car for her 16th birthday, and I got a bus pass. The way you worked things out when you paid for her entire wedding, but told me you couldn't help with my student loans." Mia's voice rose. "You've spent my entire life putting Vanessa first, excusing her behavior, letting her face no consequences. Well, not this time. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. But it's reality. And the reality is that Vanessa destroyed something priceless, and she's going to face actual consequences for once in her privileged life." Carmela stood, her face tight with anger. "If you do this, if you actually sue your sister, don't expect me to take your side. Family is family." "Then I guess I know where we stand." Mia walked to the door and opened it. "Goodbye, Mom." After Carmela left, Mia sat in that empty corner again, holding her grandfather's letter. "I'm sorry, Abuelo," she whispered. "I tried to keep it safe. I tried." But even as she said it, she knew. Eduardo would have wanted her to fight. He'd built his fortune by never backing down, never letting people take advantage of him. He'd taught her to be strong, to stand up for herself, to demand respect. Monday morning, Mia walked into James Rothstein's office with a folder full of documentation. The letter from Eduardo, a copy of his will showing he'd bequeathed her the stocks, photographs she'd taken of the suitcase over the years, showing it in the corner of her bedroom, text messages from Vanessa confirming she had a key, bank statements showing the quarterly dividends from Torres Industries being deposited into Mia's account, proving she owned the shares. James reviewed everything carefully. "This is solid. The dividends especially prove ownership. The letter from your grandfather establishes intent. The photos show the suitcase's importance to you. And the texts prove she had unauthorized access." He looked up. "But Mia, I have to ask one more time. Are you absolutely sure? Once we file this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." James nodded and started drafting the complaint. By Wednesday, Vanessa had been served. By Thursday, Mia's phone was exploding with messages from relatives. Uncle Pedro, how could you do this to your sister? Aunt Rosa, your grandfather would be ashamed. Cousin Miguel, you're tearing the family apart over money. Only one person supported her, her grandmother, Eduardo's widow, 89-year-old Lucia Torres. She called Friday evening. Mia, mi amor, I heard what happened. Abuela, No. You listen. Your grandfather gave you those shares for a reason, because he trusted you, because he loved you. And that girl, she threw away his trust like it was basura, like his life meant nothing. Lucia's voice was steel. You sue her, you make her pay, not for the money, for the disrespect. Eduardo would want you to fight. Tears streamed down Mia's face. Thank you, Abuela. And one more thing, mija. Your mother calls me, says you're being cruel. I tell her she's being a fool. She always loved Vanessa more, and now she's mad that Vanessa has to face consequences. Don't you back down. Tu abuelo está contigo. Your grandfather is with you. The legal process moved faster than Mia expected. Vanessa, apparently on advice from a lawyer she couldn't really afford, tried to settle. The offer came through James. Ms. Cooper offers $50, 0 in installments over 10 years, and a written apology. James looked at Mia. That's probably the best you'll get if this goes to trial. She doesn't have $400. She barely has $50. Counteroffer, Mia said. $400 or ownership of her house, whichever she prefers. And the apology needs to be public, posted on social media, explaining exactly what she did and why it was wrong. James blinked. That's harsh. That's justice. He made the call. The response came back within an hour. No deal. Ms. Cooper will see you in court. Perfect, Mia thought, because she wasn't doing this for the money anymore. She was doing it for every time Vanessa had been careless with other people's lives. Every time she'd been excused, coddled, protected from her own actions. The trial was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, Mia did something she'd been putting off. She started the process of getting the stock certificates reissued. It was exactly as complicated as James had warned. She needed affidavits from her grandmother, from her grandfather's executor, from the company's board. She had to prove she'd been receiving dividends. Had to get legal declarations notarized. Had to work with Torres Industries' transfer agent, a bureaucratic nightmare of forms and waiting periods. It would take at least 6 months, maybe longer, to get new certificates issued. 6 months of uncertainty, of not being able to sell or transfer the shares, of being in limbo. All because Vanessa couldn't respect boundaries. 2 weeks before the trial, Vanessa showed up at Mia's apartment. The super called up. Your sister's here. Says she needs to talk to you. Should I send her up? Mia hesitated. Then, yes. Vanessa looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, clothes rumpled. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt and pale. Can I come in? Mia stepped aside, and Vanessa entered the apartment she'd invaded months ago. I need you to drop the lawsuit, Vanessa said without preamble. Marcus and I are going to lose everything. The house, our cars, our savings. They're going to garnish my wages until I'm 60 years old. Please, Mia, I'm begging you. Did you ever ask yourself why you came into my apartment without permission? Mia asked quietly. Because you were trying to help, right? That's what you told yourself? Vanessa nodded miserably. But here's what I think, Mia continued. I think part of you knew that suitcase was important. I think part of you was jealous that Abuelo loved me more. And I think part of you wanted to hurt me the way you've been hurt every time our family acknowledged that I was his favorite. That's not true, Vanessa whispered, but her eyes told a different story. Isn't it? You threw away the one thing that connected me to him, the one thing that proved he saw something in me worth investing in. And you didn't even feel guilty until you found out it was worth money. Mia's voice hardened. So no, Vanessa. I'm not dropping the lawsuit. You're going to face the consequences of your actions. Maybe for the first time in your life. I'll lose everything, Vanessa sobbed. Then you'll understand how I felt when you threw away my everything. Vanessa left, and Mia stood in her apartment feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt. Just empty. The trial came. It lasted 2 days. Vanessa's lawyer argued that she hadn't known the value of what was in the suitcase, that she'd been acting in good faith, that the punishment didn't fit the crime. James argued that Vanessa had no right to enter Mia's apartment without permission, that she'd thrown away clearly important personal property without asking, and that her actions, whether intentional or negligent, had caused $400. Zero in damages plus the cost of certificate reissuance. The judge listened to both sides, reviewed the evidence, and delivered his ruling. Ms. Cooper's actions, while perhaps not malicious, were certainly negligent. She entered Ms. Torres's private residence without explicit permission, disposed of property that was not hers to dispose of, and caused significant financial and emotional harm. He looked directly at Vanessa. This court finds Ms. Cooper liable for damages in the amount of $400, $, plus $45,000 in legal fees and certificate reissuance costs, for a total of $445,000. Payment plan to be determined by separate hearing. Vanessa collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Marcus, her husband, looked like he might be sick. Mia sat perfectly still, feeling that same emptiness. 3 months later, Vanessa and Marcus sold their house, moved into a small rental apartment, sold both their cars and bought a used Honda, set up a payment plan that would take them 15 years to complete. Vanessa got a second job. Marcus took every overtime shift he could. Their Instagram perfect life disappeared, replaced by the reality of financial consequences. And Mia finally got her reissued stock certificates, framed them, and hung them in her apartment. Not in the corner where the suitcase had been, but over her desk, where she could see them every day while she worked. Her relationship with her mother never recovered. Carmela chose Vanessa's side, as she always had, and stopped speaking to Mia entirely. Most of her relatives did the same, unable to understand why Mia couldn't just forgive. But her grandmother understood. Lucia came to visit, looked at the framed certificates, and nodded with satisfaction. Bien hecho, mija. Your grandfather would be proud. I lost my whole family over this, abuela. No, Lucia corrected. You lost people who never valued you anyway. That's not family. That's just people who share your blood. She touched Mia's face gently. Family is the people who respect you, who honor what you value, who would never throw away your treasures. You still have me, and you have Eduardo's legacy, exactly as he intended. Sometimes justice doesn't feel good. Sometimes winning means losing everything else. But sometimes standing up for yourself, demanding consequences for people who've hurt you, is the only way to survive with your dignity intact. Mia learned that the hard way, and every time she looked at those framed certificates, she remembered. Some things, once thrown away, can be replaced. But the people who threw them away have revealed who they really are, and that truth is irreplaceable too. If you've ever had to choose between family and self-respect, share your story in the comments. And if this one hit you hard, hit that subscribe button, because we tell stories about real people making impossible choices. Sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing, and we're here for all of it.